This is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Jan Wiersma. I work for a company called Avaya, which is one of the leaders in the telecommunication space. And for Avaya, I'm their Chief Cloud Officer. Typically, Chief Cloud Officer confuses a lot of people in the title, but the last 10 years I've held these really interesting titles with cloud in the name. And it's typically when I'm focused on digital transformation, so helping companies execute on changes in culture, changes in technology, changes in process, when it comes to these fancy new technologies like cloud and machine learning and AI and blockchain and those types of technologies.
Very cool. Well, and Avaya is a global company as well in terms of their reach and things like that. So it'll be really interesting to hear your perspective, on leading people through kind of that lens of kind of a global look. Question number 2, what's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
Well, I think so. Early on in my career, I actually was a firefighter, and I think that was the most kind of formative era for me when it comes to management. Kind of learning how do you create a team, how do you help people come together, and especially all of that in the context of how does a team actually execute in high pressure situations, because that's what you walk into as a firefighter, as an example. And then helping people to understand their personal shortcomings and how to excel while working together as a team. And even as an introvert, me being an introvert, I find that whole aspect of kind of growing teams and building teams like that absolutely fascinating.
Well, and I love that you acknowledge that you're an introvert. I mean, I wouldn't know that. You're very charismatic and engaging on the dialogue here. And so I think for those listening out there and they think of themselves as introverts, so maybe they can't be as powerful of leaders. It sounds like you've kind of embraced that and used that in some ways to help your leadership abilities. Yeah,
definitely. There's a great book, by the way, out there from Susan Cain around introverts and kind of leadership and introverts. Also really beneficial if you're kind of in that corner of management and introvert.
I love that. Question 3, I often hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for that pesky people part. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think if people say that, they probably don't really mean it. We might complain about some of our employees, but I think if you are in a leadership type of role, you typically enjoy building teams, enjoy building things, and enjoy building organizations. At least I do. I think it's also a thing that I learned I needed. So as I mentioned with the previous question, is I'm relatively aware of my own shortcomings, and I need other people to compensate for my own shortcomings. So for example, I have a short attention span and kind of jump quickly through whatever is the new shiny object. So I need somebody to help me finish things, for example. So, if you don't have other people, and especially a certain diversity of other people around you to help you execute, then you're not going to be successful.
I love that. Surround yourself by the people who complement you in the areas that you need it most.
Yes, very much.
Question 4, what other successful business leaders like yourself should be on my podcast?
Well, I can think of a couple. So, if you talk about leaders that are really out there, I'm currently really into Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater, who wrote the book Principles. Probably resonates with me because I'm an engineer and therefore love the system think and the analytical approach of all of these things. So I currently follow him very much, and it's very inspiring. I think a little bit closer to kind of my area of expertise, Gene Kim. He's the author of the Phoenix Project and a couple of other books that are very much about how do you build high-performing technology organizations. Gene has been in that space for many years. I've met him a few times. He does big conferences also typically, and has these books out there. And yeah, they're really good books to kind of get the basics of these digital transformation journeys in. And I think the last one that I would mention is Tim Crawford. He's one of the leading CIOs out there and CIO advisors. And I typically find I engage a lot. I've known Tim for many years. I engage a lot with him on Twitter, for example, and he seems to be kind of the calm voice when everything is turbulent around you. Then he's the voice of reason many times. So I find him interesting and inspiring.
It's amazing. We really need him during this time, right?
Yes.
Question 5, what piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders?
I would say openness and transparency, because I don't think we do that enough as leaders. Being very open and honest about where you are as a leader, what is important for you, what are your own goals. I drive this even personally from kind of maybe almost a radical transparency perspective, where we're really open and transparent with the team, so with my peers, but also the teams that report to me, in where we're going, why we're going that journey, and what my personal goals are, even down to, for example, personal compensation or personal bonuses. Because all of those things actually help people understand why you're making decisions in a certain way that you make a decision. And I think too many times especially if you work with highly skilled experts, so especially in my field of IT, typically people are highly educated. Those people are not stupid. But they get confronted with these decisions that they have a hard time then kind of tracing that back to why was this decision taken. And I've kind of seen that if I drive that from a high transparency and openness perspective, then people might not like the decision that has been taken, but they at least understand why it is done. So the acceptance is easier.
That's awesome. All right, final question number 6. In 1 minute, tell us about your favorite boss or your favorite teacher. Who's influenced you?
Well, I think early on, I've had a lot of coaches and managers that were kind of my favorite teachers. So tip out there, if you're entering the management space, definitely look for your own good teacher and kind of find that and hold on to that person to help you progress in your career. I had that with my last manager, the CEO of Spoken Communications, before we got acquired by Avaya. So Mo Afsar, who was a VP at Oracle back in the day, a really inspiring, good teacher. And I think in general, and this would be a recommendation, once it's appropriate, again, visit a fire station and talk to some of the fire lieutenants or chiefs, because those guys can also give you a lot of good advice on how to guide teams to the outcome that you're looking for, especially in high pressure situations.
I love that recommendation. That's great. And take them some cookies or some chili too while you're going to say hi.
Yes, they will appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. How can people find you if they want to reach out and say hi or learn more?
Yep, look for me on LinkedIn, Jen Wiersma, or on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. It's GM Wiersma altogether on my Twitter handle.
This is awesome. Well, thank you so much again. We really appreciate it. And this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.